This week on Inside the SCCA, another one of our solo 50th anniversary tribute shows. Welcome to Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Belansky. This week on our show, we've got another one of our SCCA 50th anniversary solo national shows. This time we're going to talk with another legend. We've lined up lots of legends for these shows. Our guest, as you can now see, is a 13-time solo national champion. He's got a whole bunch of pro solo national titles also. Mark Daddio. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So, as I've told everyone else when we started these shows, and I got together with the folks at National and we started talking about who to put on these shows, they gave me the must-have list. And you were on the must-have list. And I appreciate you taking the time. Also, for those who are usually watching this live, we're doing this a couple of weeks ahead of time because I'm actually going to be on vacation when this airs. And this is how I get my wife to let me keep doing things like this, is going on vacation with her occasionally. So that's why we're recording here. So this is a couple of weeks ahead of time of when it's going to air. So I may reference some things later that happened earlier, and that will be why I do that. So, all right, Mark, you know how this starts. You've watched a couple of our episodes. I start every episode with essentially the same question. How did you get messed up in this crazy sport that we all love?
Well, it pretty much started when I was a kid. My parents took me to a local oval short track at the age of 3.5, maybe 4, and we would go every Saturday night. I knew at that point I was bit. There was some form of racing in my future, but basically I took and went. Didn't do anything until I was like 14 or so. Tried go-kart racing in the dirt. Did that for a couple of years, not very well. And then when I was in college, one of my friends in college said, "I think you should try," because we talked about racing all the time, and he was doing some SCCA road racing. He was
Hmm.
doing some auto, and so he said, "You should go try an autocross." Um, at that point, I bought a before that, I bought a '86 Mustang 50 notchback.
Of course.
Of course. '86. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean,
that,
all
that
of
was
us, it sounds like you're probably close to my age. All of us either had Mustangs or IROC Camaros. That was kind of the poor persons. The Cutlass Supreme from the late 70s was also a fun car that a lot of us had.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My first car was a '70 Chevelle
There,
SS.
there you go.
Not a autocross car,
No.
but it was fun.
So,
So,
real quick, what was the short track? I love to pay homage and give props to
uh,
the local short track. Do you remember what it was?
yeah, oh yeah. How could I forget? Danbury Fair Race Arena. It
Okay.
was Danbury, Connecticut. Was like a private club. My uncle owned a car, and so the car was next door when I was growing up. When they were working on it, I'd go wander over there and check it out when I was a kid. So that was the reason we went to the races. Not that my parents were into racing, because they weren't, but they brought me because his brother owned a car, and that was kind of just the thing to do back then. Great
Right.
time.
Right. So your
Sadly, it's a
so your friend in high school got you messed up in this. What was what
actually it was college.
or college? What
College
what did he suggest that you go check out?
autocross.
Okay.
Go try this, and so I found wasn't an SCCA club. I just found a local club that he had run some events with, and took my '86 Mustang out there, and I was all ready to knock them dead. Didn't work out that way. Turns out armor all is not a good thing to have on your sidewalls.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, went around a couple times, looped it, and then the local guy who happened to be an SCCA guy come over to me and said, "You really shouldn't have armor all on your tires." And 32 psi is not enough air for those Gatorbacks. So that was the beginning for me. Um, and after that, I ran that car in '87 for a bit, and then bought an '88 car early in the '87 year, and decided for '88 I was gonna just start running nationals events and get my butt kicked and see how I can do.
So, what was the '88 car? Was that also a Mustang?
'88 Mustang LX 50 notchback, same car, just newer.
Okay, okay. And so you're now a one of those guys who everyone looks to when they look at the best of the best. How long did it take you to get from getting your butt kicked in '88 to when you really felt like you were more towards the pointy end of the stick?
A year.
Okay,
'88. I guess '87. I might have run a couple. I don't even know now. It all kind of blurs together. But I ran some pro solos regionally, like in the Northeast, first year. And for '88, I had John Boudreau and John Dwayne were the big F Street guys back then, and they ran around here. So I was running against them in '87. And really, when '88 I started running, I got to see John Ames for the first time,
right.
and that was eye opening. For the '88, let me just say that man could drive. He was very deliberate and meticulous, methodical about how he did things. And in that first year, that was kind of a shaped my approach to the sport.
And what did you learn from watching him? How did you learn from watching him?
He never looked out of control.
Right.
He for an autocross and it would look slow as stink, and it was just he was just fast.
Yeah.
He kind of taught me the importance of conserving distance and not flailing.
Sure. Sure. As
So
and how old were you at this point?
he's '88, and I was 23.
At 23, being in control is not something your mind works as a guy, right?
No, not usually. No,
So
no. But I watched and tried to learn as much as I could from the guys that were fast and see what made them fast.
right.
And tried to apply that as quickly as I could. I think I came back in the next year and finished second. So I was competitive pretty much. My first year I was fourth, and then second year I was second at nationals. And the year I was fourth, John Ames won, and I was not even in the same zip code as him on time. The
Right.
first year, was fourth, but yeah, not even close. I don't think anybody was close to him that year.
Right, right. So that Ford, that was an F stock at the time, or were you in a different class?
No F stock.
Okay. Okay.
I ran stock pretty much right up in for the first 5 years that I went to nationals was in the same class and tried three different cars in the process.
So I did my first solo in I think 30 years a couple of weeks ago. And I was talking to someone asked me what class are you in? And I said H stock. And they looked at me like I had three heads. And
Yeah,
I had to remember that, oh, we don't call it that anymore. And that's how long ago I did this. Now it's considered street. So,
yeah,
which is something it will be very, very, it's like, not calling Laguna Seca or Sonoma Sears Point. It's gonna take some learning. um, so have you always done stock or street classes throughout your time, or have you varied your classes?
no, I've run. I think I ran street classes up until 2000.
Okay.
And in '03, I think I ran a C-Mod car. I jumped in that I had, wasn't my car, but I drove that at nationals, and that was an experience. I've done DSP in '01 in my Neon that I ran stock and made it DSP, and then that was, of course, 911,
Sure.
which I was one of the people that was running first heat first day,
Mm,
so that was interesting.
yeah.
And uh, street mod, and then back to street classes now, which is pretty much stock but with a tire rule change.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I did my first race, my first autocross, in my little Honda Fit in H stock on all season radials. Um, and I was slow as snot. But the tires are coming. They'll be here for the next event. I'm told that will make a big difference.
It
Um,
will.
so
Well,
I'm looking forward to that. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're hoping to go to the Nationals this year with the podcast. And I figure if I'm going to be there, I might as well compete because it's part of the experience of being there, right?
did you actually get in?
I did. I
Wow, you're one of the fortunate 1,300
Well, it's
this year.
funny. My shift at work, my big responsibilities ended right when the thing opened. So I
Oh,
I was able to kind of quickly sneak away for 5 minutes, and I got in really easy because I started right at 1 o'clock Pacific time,
yeah.
and
So you yeah, 4 hours to get in.
yeah. So I got lucky. So anyway, so I figured if I'm going to go, I might as well try it and experience the whole thing, so I can talk about it on the podcast. Um, so that's what I'm looking forward to there. But
It's a time.
yeah, I will be vying for not finishing last. So I was joking this weekend. I said there should be 4 steps on the podium: first, second, third, and not last.
There you go.
So
Podium might, but
yeah, exactly,
many
exactly.
people.
Um, so took you about a year to get quick. When did you get your first national championship? And was that in the Mustang?
No, it was in the '90 Camaro Iraq. It
Oh,
was 92.
okay,
92. I went. Took me 4 years before I got one.
cool. And that car's also in F stock, right?
That was an F stock car, also. Yes.
Cool. Yep. Those 50 liter Mustangs and Camaros I think, are they still in F Street now?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
So some
All
things didn't change.
kind of didn't change, but yeah, a lot has changed.
Cool. Cool. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk with you about with having you on. And I've talked with a lot of folks who on this series of folks, these must have folks. Over the years, you've been doing it now. Have you been at every national since the first one you went to?
No,
Okay.
no, I've missed four.
Okay.
Three of them were for years that I did time attack.
Okay.
Was driving for AMS in their crazy Mitsubishi Evo car, doing red line time attack events, and so I was just didn't have enough time
Sure.
with kids and business and all of that to do everything. So those 3 years were out, and the other one I don't remember why I didn't go.
Okay.
It was '08. I missed '08, and I don't. No, maybe it was '06. '06 I missed.
Okay.
Why?
So over the years, a lot has changed, and a lot has stayed the same. What are the changes that you've seen over the years that kind of stick out in your head?
Wow. Use of technology, just in general, people using data acquisition. Where when I started, there was nothing. I mean, I think there was the G analyst was the only thing that existed back then.
Okay.
Very primitive piece of equipment. Um, but I mean, now people they video their runs, they have data, they all put it up to the cloud, they compare. So I don't do any of that. So
Well,
I am still operating in the old school mentality in an era where it's changed a lot.
so when was your last national championship?
My last championship
Yep, your last solo national championship.
this past year, 22.
Okay, so you have a nickname,
Yes.
uh, and
You want to
what's that?
you want to know the story behind
Well,
it?
I do, but so the nickname is you're referred to as the alien, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So now you're absolutely right. We tell stories on this podcast. It's my favorite part of of the podcast. What's the story behind the nickname the alien?
Okay. So I don't remember the year, but I think it was in '99. Um, we ran D Street at the Nationals, and that particular year, I think there were, I don't know, 40 cars or something in D stock. I'm sorry, at the time it was on Hoosiers. Um, Stacy Molliker finished second, and when he went across the stage at the banquet, he went up to the mic and he goes, "But I was the first human," and that's where it came from. Me as the alien, and now there's lots of aliens, and I'm not responsible.
So, but isn't it the reasoning behind it because you're going up against all of these folks who are using all this tech and you still do it old school?
No, in that particular year, the reason behind it, what started it, was more to do with that everybody was racing neons, and I think I won by 2 point something seconds.
Oh.
Very competitive class, which is effectively a spec class. So that earned me that moniker.
And that was what year?
99, I believe.
And it apparently has stuck.
It is stuck, and they give it to a lot of other people now. Get the same,
Got it.
kind of like it's kind of like Google search.
So you're kind of the OG, the gangster, the original gangster alien.
I am old enough to now be, yes, I am the original. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but
Oh, I think it sounds like it's great. It sounds like it was meant in a very honorable and loving, maybe not loving. Maybe maybe it was
well,
more sarcastic than loving, but maybe over the years it's become loving, right?
yeah, I kind of, yeah, I'm fine with whatever.
So I'll ask the question. If all the other folks are using all the tech and you could, why don't you?
I feel as though for myself, setting them up, turning them on, turning them off, having that be part of what I'm doing at an event, I don't feel as though I would get as much out of it. And I think it would interfere with what my normal prep is for an event, for driving.
Right.
It's just got to worry about, think about. I don't want to have to consciously be thinking about a whole lot of anything when I'm racing.
Would it take some of the fun out of it for you?
Um, no, no, I've driven in other people's cars where they've excuse me, had data acquisition stuff in there.
Sure.
Kind of, I guess this kind of sounds stupid. I kind of been doing it so long that I can come back from a run and kind of know what mistakes I made and have a pretty good idea of how much it cost.
Right.
I've kind of done that a couple of times in the last few years, and so I don't know that unless I had somebody of similar speed in the car to where I could get feedback that I'm taking the wrong line somewhere. All I would do is, by looking at my runs, is know I was at the limit or not, which I kind of know anyway. And so I don't know that I would get a huge amount of benefit from it.
Right. Yeah,
So risk.
I've talked to several people about that acquisition on the road racing side,
Yep.
and from what I've gathered, it can be really helpful if you're really new because
Hmm.
that can help you bridge the gap from back of the pack to maybe upper, lower front of the pack.
Yep.
Um, and then if you're looking for that last, you know, 10/10th, that's also where data acquisition can come in. But a lot of it is you can tell you're right. Even in my first ever return back, I knew exactly what I was doing wrong on every lap that I did, on every run that I did.
Yep.
And when my goal became breaking a certain time, which I knew was in the car with the bad tires that I had, I just knew the 4 or 5 areas that I didn't do well enough, and I worked on it, and I didn't need that acquisition to tell me that. Now, maybe I would have told me that sooner if I had it, but it didn't take me a ton of runs to realize that I wasn't going deep enough when I could have gone deeper. Because the only thing I did have that the tires were okay with was stopping power, and so I needed to go a little deeper, and then obviously when you really screw up a corner, a gate, you knew it pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, when I come back from a run, I basically replay the run in my mind. If I made errors, I fix them mentally, drive the course with them fixed, and then when I go out for the next run, just drive.
Sure,
Don't even.
sure. So there's something about the folks I've talked to in this series. All of them had their special parts of what they did in their time to get to their. Some of them have very large numbers of national championships, like you do. And one of the things I find in common now that I've got you on the show is all really just driven to learn the craft
Hmm.
of autocrossing because it's different. It's a different craft than any of the other motorsport disciplines. Um, and it sounds like that's the kind of the same thing for you. Is you got a lot out of perfecting the craft.
Yes, I when I first started, I was absolutely obsessive about reading anything I could on it, watching anything I could on it, um, watching people when they run. When I went to an event, I was never not watching. I was pretty much watching every car, especially the faster ones, and seeing what the differences were. And ride with people that are faster than you. That was eye opening early on. Um, yeah, I mean, putting the effort in, and that's probably one of the reasons why, as I've gotten older, it's actually a conscious decision to put the effort in.
Right.
I don't know that age in and of itself is necessarily a problem. I think the desire to put forth the effort
Mm,
to do well at the highest level, that doesn't come easy as you get older because you really don't want to.
sure. Um, you said something very interesting. You read everything you could read
Oh yeah.
when you found it. Um, today, and I spent, I can't tell you the number of hours I spent on YouTube in the last month before doing this to kind of remind myself how the events haven't changed. The way they're run really hasn't changed much since I did it
Yeah.
last time. It's still, you do your X number of runs, whatever that may be. You have your run groups and your work groups. None of that has changed. But I want a little refresher in that. But there's like things like water spraying your tires to cool them down. I don't know when that started. Does that work?
I don't spray my tires.
Oh, good. Okay, that makes me feel better.
On Yokohamas, I would be spraying my tires.
Okay,
They have a narrower band. I mean, you have to know the tire you're driving,
got it.
what its ideal heat range is, and you know the same tire on two different cars may or may not need spraying.
Sure.
Just you got to know where the tire wants to be, and if you get it too hot, you got to spray it. I don't have that problem with this PRZ. It's
Right.
very light.
Yeah, I don't know anything from anything yet. So all I know is that every run I did in succession seemed to be faster, and I thought maybe it had to do with the fact that there was more heat in the tires. I'm just guessing.
On your tires, yes, your wheels would work better. Getting the warmer they are, probably the better they would
Yeah.
work.
Um, like I said, I have no expertise in this at all, so that was just what my mind was telling me, and I didn't want to get out of the car. I was already just kind of a little nervous, maybe, and I felt just sitting in the car was the best place for me to be. So, and I don't remember people getting out of the car to change their tire pressures between runs either. Maybe that
And
was something that was going on at the higher ends. Um,
uh, depends on the tires, and
yeah,
again, you're running. How hot it is outside,
sure,
all those things. If you bother to put nitrogen in them so they don't go up a lot,
right,
all things you can do.
yeah, yeah, very cool. Um, what's the secret sauce? I mean, the 13 national championships doesn't happen on accident.
I
Um,
have I have no idea. um, I don't know that there is secret sauce. I don't. I think some people have a better natural feel. There's people that are very fast right away. There's people who take a long time and then get very fast. So I don't know that there's one answer to that question.
yeah. So,
Um,
so you've been to I can't do the math, but all but four of the solo nationals since 1999, I think, or
oh,
89,
88. From
88.
88, I missed. Yeah, wow.
I think you said
I've
four.
I've been. I started in '88, so 31 maybe.
Sure, sure.
30 nationals. I forget the number.
So
I think it's,
this is the 50th.
yep.
Um, let's talk about that for a few minutes. Um, what is it? So let's start with, and I'll ask you a different question later. What do you enjoy most about your annual, pilgrimage to the solo nationals?
The party.
Yeah,
Hanging out with a bunch of people. A lot of them you only see once a year because they're from the other coast.
sure.
Uh, the competition is second to none. I mean, you can win there. It's done well. Um, but mainly just kind of hanging out with a bunch of like-minded crazy people that
Yeah,
like playing with cars.
because there's I don't even know how many classes there are, but there's 1,300 people signed up this year.
Yeah.
Let's just say there's what 100 classes
I
between
don't think it's
with the ladies classes combined and
something if I guess, but I don't know.
but there's probably only what 10 people in each class with a legit class chance to win.
In some classes, yes.
In
Other classes it might only be two or three.
right. So that means that the vast majority of people going to the solo nationals are going cuz they just love it, right?
I would say more than half go just because they love it.
Yeah.
It's
And
yeah.
I love the fact that the solo community embraces that.
Oh yeah, it's that. I mean, that is it. The fun has definitely changed and evolved over the years. It was a little different in the earlier years, a little more crazy.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of cleaned up since then, which is good.
I think there are people that might argue with you on the it's good part.
Well, I mean, you know,
I understand. Yeah, what we accept as fun today and what we accepted as okay and fun in years past has changed definitely. Um,
that's what I'm.
yeah, and I'm sure that for a lot of reasons that's good too. Um, so for someone who's going for the first time, I'm sure I'm not the only one. What should we expect? What should we bring? What should we do? What should we not do?
Well, I would highly recommend that you walk the course a lot
Right.
so that you know it well enough to drive it with your eyes closed. That would be number one. Number two, don't miss the functions, the gatherings.
Sure.
Make sure you hit those. Um, don't get overwhelmed. Just have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I guess probably having reasonable expectations are probably smart as well.
um, and if you're racing, you want to win.
Sure. Sure.
That's um, yeah. Basing your expectations somewhat on your previous results would probably be healthy.
Right. Right. So so you've been to Lincoln a number of times. Is there anything else Lincoln? I know that the award or the big party, the big dinner is going to be at the Motorsports Museum there, which I didn't even know Lincoln had. Have you been to that museum?
I have. It's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it. If you're out there, don't miss that.
Well,
Sure.
and I understand there's an SCCA exhibit now there. I don't know if it's going to be a permanent exhibit or it's going to be just part of because of the 50th anniversary of the Solo Nationals. And I understand it's really pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they did with it. I didn't know about it until your last podcast. I saw it. I was like, oh,
Yeah, neither did
okay.
I. Neither did I. So, story time. I asked this same question in the last podcast. Um, is there a particular win, or maybe not even a win, a particular event over the time you've been there where you had a battle with somebody that is really memorable for you that you either had fun with or that what is that one or maybe even two championships or almost maybe championships that really stick out in your head?
Um, 93,
Okay.
running in A Street, and so was John Ames, and so was Peter Cunningham.
Oh, PD. So PD, real quick, was my first solo driving instructor
Very good.
way back in he spectacular. I couldn't and this was back when he was called PD, by the way. Now he's Peter.
Yeah, goes
Um
by both.
but yeah, I was Milwaukee County Stadium and I was a Milwaukee region member and I was not able to absorb nearly enough of what he was trying to teach us.
Yeah, it's easy when you're. I do instructing also, and it's very easy to overload people with more than they can
Right.
digest in one sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, all right, so 93, tell us a story.
93. Yep, I had won my first national the year before in F Street,
Okay.
F stock. Sorry, keep it. Um, and so a friend of mine had a bought an RX-7 twin turbo, and I said he let me drive it, wanted me to drive it, so ran it that season in the pro solos and divisionals, whatever. Um, so we had an epic battle in A stock at the time on Hoosiers between the three of us, all driving yellow RX-7s. Um, so I ended up winning the year, but I didn't win either day.
Oh,
Yeah, Ames won the one day. I think Ames won the first day, and Peter Cunningham won the second day. And I was close to both of them both days, and that was enough for me to win it without winning either day, which doesn't happen real often.
I was going to say, is that an only time occurrence or just a rare occurrence?
It's rare. I don't know how many other times it's happened. I'm sure it's happened,
I'm going
but
to have to ask Rocky that question.
yeah, I don't know that he even would know that. I don't think he publishes that in his book, but
Yeah,
I don't know. But I'm sure it's happened. I mean, maybe less likely in maybe more likely in highly competitive classes
sure,
where you have a bunch of people that are fast. And that particular year, A stock was pretty stacked.
sure.
So, but that one stands out as far as one for the competition and unusual. Um, Another one that would stands out for me is '07.
Okay.
'07, I had spent a chunk of the season jumping in. A guy from New York region, Jim Gary. I don't know if you know Jim.
No.
He's from upstate New York, and he had been running C mod since oof, I don't even know, maybe '90.
Okay.
C mod in various cars, and was struggling with it, having a rough time with it. And in '07, I had won in '03 in a C mod car, and had helped people who owned the car set it up to my liking. So I helped Jim in '07 at local events around here, setting it up, and at the test and tune out before the '07 national, I believe. Um, and he ended up winning in '07 that year, and had not won a national championship since 1984. And so that was actually particularly gratifying because as as we get older, we realize that sometimes it's as gratifying to help somebody else do well as it is to do well yourself.
Sure. Sure.
That was very cool. In the same year, I also won my street mod car, which is an Evo that I had built for that. Except it was really a street car because I drove it out there,
Huh.
trailer it. It still had air conditioning and stock seats. So that year as a whole was just very very cool.
Yeah. So you've also done some road racing.
A
Um,
little bit.
and I know that I think probably Randy Pobst is probably the most prolific autocrosser to cross over into the road racing side of things.
And
Um,
back.
and back, yeah. Um, but it seems to me though that not a lot of autocrossers, typically those who've done it for years,
Mhm.
I know a lot of people who've done it for a couple of years and then switched to road racing and really didn't go back to autocross. But
Right.
there's not a lot of autocrossers who did it for a long time who finally went over and did either dabbled in or had any really big success in the road racing side. Um, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts as to why that might be. Is it a monetary thing? Is it a I'm good at autocross and I'm enjoying it here and I don't really because one of the things everyone always talks about is in the club specifically is why can't we get more autocrossers to go road racing? I'm sure cost has something to do with it. Is there anything else?
Well, yes, and can't tell you what other people think. I can tell you my thing. I dabbled in road racing from '93 to '95. I built an American sedan car and ran it regionally up here, and ran a couple nationals with it. Um, Part of the reason was in club racing, and I don't want this to sound wrong, compared to autocross. Technically, it's more challenging to drive autocross. The road racing, you go to the same track, run the same turns, so it becomes more car. Driver's still important, obviously, but it just is. It's more car than driver at the pointy end. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah.
So for autocross, you could take a car that isn't perfect and still be competitive nationally
Sure.
and regionally. You jump in anything, and if you can drive it well, you will be reasonably fast. So road racing, well, it's expensive. I enjoyed it when I did it, but and a lot of times you're either out front by a lot or you're behind by a lot. And then it becomes, when you're used to autocrossing, it's kind of a little bit mundane, for lack of a better word, unless you're actually in a battle. When you're in a battle, road racing is awesome.
Right.
It's great when you're bump drafting at Road America in a pack of neons. Awesome fun.
Right.
But when you're by yourself, comparing it to autocross, eh, just didn't do it for me.
Right. Right. Were you at the Bristol National that happened a couple weeks ago?
I was not.
Okay. Are you familiar with everything that went down there?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with
Well,
everything.
with the so for those who don't know, the Bristol National Solo event, the course on day one was apparently either identical to or extremely close to a course they ran at that same location a couple of months ago. Um, and there was a protest because in autocross, it's a big advantage to have run a course previous to the event because you only get 4 runs, and if you've had 4 runs a couple of months ago, that's a big advantage, right?
um,
Maybe.
maybe. You get three at a tour
Okay.
or not three. I don't. Maybe
So
because that's my best.
yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot about the decisions that were made or how it was handled. But
No, no, no.
um,
Maybe it's advantageous for some people. I don't feel as though after three that I would necessarily, in same conditions. Basically, when I get more than 3 runs, it's usually the conditions have changed.
mhm,
Or you're doing 3 in the morning at an event, 3 in the afternoon, and then you'll drop a bunch. But usually, in within three, I'm going to figure it out. I mean, and there's a lot of people that can figure it out in three. So I don't know that at the at, at the top it's going to make much difference. But the rules are the rules, and
right.
that shouldn't have happened. I'm not sure what the correct you know result should be, but the protest committee will figure that one out.
Yeah. I
I don't know that would have bothered me any, but
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think there's probably could be some discussions about the way the protest was adjudicated. Um, as far as whether the whole day had to be thrown out or maybe just the people who had run it earlier. That's a discussion that we don't even have to have here. Um,
no,
but I- but I think maybe there was a different way to fix the problem whereas everybody who had traveled all that distance who hadn't been there before to see it could have still been able to get the results from Saturday. But we don't have to hash that out here at all. It was interesting to see the response to this whole thing from non-autocrossers, who couldn't well, road racers run the same track, or same track over and over and over and over again, and it never changes. And why is it a big deal in autocross? Why is it a big deal in autocross?
Less looks at it, and you don't get to practice at all. You go
Yeah,
drive it.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I tell people that, and my response to that is, have you ever run a track, to the road racers? Have you ever run a track out there and you've run it for years and then something moves? Like, like
Or they,
Hallett has this corner where you go up a hill and it's a blind right-hander, and for decades there was a billboard that people would aim their car at. And a year or so ago, the billboard went away. And all I heard about for the weekend I was there for the Super Tour was, "Oh my god, the billboard's gone." And I'm like, "Well, think about that for autocross, is that you get so locked in on a billboard as your turn-in point, or your sight line. It's kind of the same idea with autocross."
yeah, I mean, I don't use. There are autocrossers who use things off in the distance as a marker for where you're pointing the car when
Mhm.
you walk the course and say, oh, I'm going to go towards the tower over there.
Right.
That's going to aim at. I never have done that myself.
Right.
I pretty much, when I'm looking through a course, I'm looking for the exits.
Mhm.
I'm getting off of each corner. How do I get off each corner? And then string them together.
Right. Right.
If I don't use cones, this way I don't have to worry about it.
Well, and I think there's a specific skill set to autocross, and it's the course walk and being able to use that one or two times or however many times you walk it, so that your first run doesn't become a throwaway because you only get three or four depending on whether you're at a national event or whether you're doing a local event. Um, and those people who've done it enough, who can walk the course, get what they need to get so that their first run is within, a couple of tenths of what their fast run's going to be, is really kind of important, right?
Absolutely. Because first of all, if you're going to go, if you're getting to the really fast end of things, you're really close to a lot of cones, and you you need to be able to go fast right away. Because if you nibble a cone on the first one, you want to just have three good shots at going as fast as you can. You don't want to throw one away.
Right. And if more importantly, if you nibble a cone on the last one, you need to make sure that your second or your first one was a pretty darn good run.
Yeah, my goal is usually to go out on my first run and get a
Banker.
9 percenter that's clean
Yeah.
in the, and then go from there. You
Yeah.
know, if I get that, then I just take two flyers and hope for the best.
Right. Right. Cool. All right. So as we get out of here, you got one more story for us, maybe from over the years that you want to share? Maybe not even about you, or something else that happened. If maybe one of the events or one of the festivities, or another competitor that you've seen over the years that you just admire for doing stuff and coming in and doing their thing.
Um, how about if we go with from the early '90s, a memorable event? How's that?
I love it.
All right. So I'm not going to give the names.
The names will remain nameless to protect the innocent or the or the guilty.
I'm guilty. Um, so a bunch of us are sitting at a table at the Pro Solo banquet, and adult beverages were being consumed, of
Of course.
course. And somebody got an idea, and a helmet was passed around the table where everybody put in enough money to get this person to
I
they
already.
run a nothing on but their helmet.
And how did that work out?
Oh, it was not. It was funny. Yeah, they weren't happy about that, but it was funny.
That's good
That's a
stuff.
memorable story from early early on. That has nothing to do with racing.
That's all right. That's all right. So, what's your current ride? Are you
Current
s-
ride is a 22 BRZ,
okay.
uh, D Street car,
All right.
running against Honda Civic Type R's and the latest comer, Hyundai Elantra N. All
S-
three are pretty close, I think.
Yeah. So you've got 13 titles. How many titles do you have so that when you switch classes, everybody in the class goes, "Oh crap, Daddio's in my class this year."
I have, yeah, I have no idea, but
Uh,
for that does happen once in a while.
I'm sure.
But I want to run against me, so that's good.
Yeah. Mark.
This year we've
Oh,
79 cars in D Street registered for nationals.
wow.
Yeah, biggest class by a decent amount, I think. Going to be and any one of the 10 guys, I can name 10 guys that any one of them wouldn't be a surprise to win. So it's going to be a barn burner this year.
So this leads me to a good question or an interesting question. So you said there's any number of guys, who 10 guys or people. I guess they're all guys.
Any chance, but I could name 10 that nobody would even be surprised if
Right.
they won.
So how often when you have a list of 10, how often does the winner come from just like, I've never heard of this person and they show up and they've won my class? They've won a
Oh, it
class.
happens. Definitely happens. Um, in bigger classes, not as often, but
Right.
it does happen. I mean, guys just come along and are competitive out of the blue. So you never know.
Yeah.
Set emotions. Anybody else can do it. So
Sure. Sure. All right. Before we head out, is there any group of folks you want to thank for helping you along the way?
wow, lots of people that have helped me along the way. I mean, like I said before, John Ames early on kind of offered me a lot of advice, kind of helped me out when I first started. Um, so that was kind of cool. Kathy Barnes, very very supportive all the way around. Brian Connors and Pat Salerno have kind of been, you know, Brian carts my tires out to nationals because I don't trailer, I always drive. So, and Bob Davis carts some of my tires out to nationals. So, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy helping people more as I get older. I really is kind of I teach. I'll tell all my competitors exactly what I'm doing for car setup and
Right.
try and get. I like the competition. I like people to press, and we got that this year.
Right. Who's an up and comer we should be looking out for
In my class,
in your class or anyone else that's caught your eye?
well, I know. I mean, in my class, this guy from Philly, Kenny Roller, he was fourth last year. Um, he's been very quick, and he's 25, young guy. So I think he was rookie of the year a couple years ago.
Okay.
He's or in 19, yeah, 20 or 19, I forget. Um, so he'll end up getting some. He's quick. Uh, I don't know if I don't like you pay attention to everybody that's running in your class for the most part.
Right.
So better knowledge there. I'm sure there's always somebody coming along.
Sure. Sure.
The last 10 years, we got Tom O'Gorman, Brian Highcotter, guys like that just show up and are like aliens right away.
That's awesome. Mark, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time with us. Look forward to watching you and see if you can grab number 14 this year at the 50th. Um,
Yep,
that'd
up
be
there.
pretty epic, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I hope to see you out there, and thank you for the time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. All right, Mark Daddio, our guest. We've got a couple of more preview shows with Larry Lefty McLeod coming up here in a couple of weeks, so stick around for that. That's going to do it for another episode of Inside the SCCA. If you like what you're hearing or seeing, subscribe to the Racing Wire Podcast Network or the Racing Network on YouTube so you won't miss any episodes. It would also be great if you leave a comment, especially if it's a good one. If it's not a good one, put it on someone else's Facebook page. You can also follow us on social media. On Twitter, it's @RacingWireNet. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Belansky. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and go play with cars.
I'm Dorsey Schrader, and when I'm on my way to a race, I'll listen to the SCCA podcast, Inside the Short Bus.
Inside the SCCA is a presentation of the Racing Wire Podcast Network and Rule 15 Productions. This podcast is not affiliated with, endorsed, or sponsored by the Sports Car Club of America. The views expressed within are those of the host and our guests, and not that of the SCCA.